You see this? Second place. And all because Sarah McIntosh just couldn't land her tumbling pass. But it's fine. I've moved on. That was a long time ago. And just to clear up that heinous rumor that I purposely elbowed that little unathletic crybaby on warm-up mat so she couldn't compete the next year? Absolutely ridiculous. But if I did, shouldn't she be thanking me? Because we won. Truth is, cheer wasn't meant for me. Pom-poms, teamwork, the stench of mediocrity on the sidelines. Girls like Kelsey Heather don't belong on the sidelines. There's no I in team. Please. There's no winning team without me. And how do they thank me? Aggressive behavior. Yeah, that's what those losers told me. Well, looks like I found a way to put my aggression to good use. To control my championships. And if you think that I'm ever gonna settle for second, well, come here. Bring it on.
Now that's the way it's done.
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Those were my sentiments exactly. My sentiments exactly. That's the way it's done. Hello, folks. You are listening to the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast, and this is your host, Mr. Green. And it's amazing what a change of environment, a change of presentation, a new coat of paint, if you will, can do for somebody. That, if you do not recognize her face, was the former Randy Rah-Rah 2.0. And yes, I realized that WoW never referred to her as Randy Rah-Rah 2.0. I called her Randy Rah-Rah 2.0 because they just recycled the name. And she still addresses the cheerleader gimmick to a degree. But I came across that promo just because I was looking. I generally open up the show, if you listen to this for a while, with some segment from the WoW episode in question that's in review or something like that, whether that be good or bad or what have you. And I usually lead in with that. But when I came across this, I was like, oh yeah, I got to use this promo. This is great. This is good stuff. It shows a different side of her. And it's everything that I was talking about with some of those people in WoW. It's like some people need to be left to their own devices to a degree. I mean, you don't want to let them just go too far off the rails. But just assigning someone a character is not always a good thing. I know that they believe that it is, but it's not always a good thing. Just be like, oh, you did this? All right, so you'll be a cheerleader. And what I love about this promo, or that promo that you just heard at the beginning of this, is if you knew where she came from, and I'm going to assume that some of the people that listen to that in that particular environment probably did not. But for those of us out there that's seen her in the wild, that promo could be taken as a double layered type of thing, a double entendre, if you will. It could, portions of it at least, could be applied to WoW. Which is what, in my view, makes it a great promo, is that there's a layer to that. And it ended on the cheerleader note. She tied it in. I mean, this is what you do. This is what you do. She tied it all in together at the end. Boom. Bring it on, which works as a wrestling line, and it works dealing with the cheerleader line because it's the title of probably the most famous cheerleader movie in the world. Bravo to her. Bravo. And I hope that she gets some good things going on, beyond this point. I used to do a segment called Talking the Talk for things like this. This was back in the day when I was working with somebody else on the internet. Well, I guess at the time it would be an internet wrestling show, internet radio wrestling show, and then it kind of migrated over into the podcast. But I would go and I would collect various promos from various young ladies across the independents. I would find them and seek them out, and air it so that some of the fans out there could get to know a new face, get to understand who they were, hopefully know who they were before they came to that town if they did, because the promos help make who you are. They help build character. And I don't mean character in the sense of I am in a room and I'm writing up a character in a story. I mean the character of their persona. All the wrestlers over the years that are considered greats, most of them were not just created in some back room somewhere. The promos that people gush over to this day were things that those guys did. Your Dusty Rhodes, your Steve Austins, your Rocks, your John Cena's, your Jake Roberts, you name it. Your Randy Savages. Who is going to write for Randy Savage? Who would sit in a room and say, hey, I need you to do this promo and do it this way with that guy? That's an impossibility. You have to let some people be who they are and let them do turn it up a little bit. But I'll get to that because that's a statement I actually have to address in a segment further down the line. But all of that to say is that I am considering bringing that thing back just based on this alone. I was fully looking to find a segment like I normally do with something that related to the episode in question. And I had one. Initially, it was going to be Jessie Jones because she's great on the mic too. And really, in this particular episode, she might have been the saving grace of anything in it. But again, I'll get to that. But when I heard Kelsey Heather do her thing, I was like, yeah, that's the one. Hands down. I got to put that in there. So let's get into some of the news outside of the preview a while. It's not too far away from it. In fact, I would say most of this episode is pretty much leaned in and around a lot of stuff to deal with a while, because there isn't a huge amount of wrestling news, at least news that I choose to cover at this point. So let's get to it. This is the news, views, and updates. As a side note, I just came across one Robin Reed on Reality of Wrestling the other day. I was surprised. I just had it on like I do with some of the wrestling that I watch throughout the week. Every once in a while, I tune in to Reality of Wrestling. I'm not going to say that I'm a regular viewer, but I'll just check it out. Like, okay, let me see his promotion and his being Booker T's, and see how it's going along, how the presentation is. He usually has a very good show. I just don't get a chance to catch it all the time. And lo and behold, at the end of that episode, who do I see walk up but the Black Diamond Robin Reed? Now, we know that the disciplinarian, or at least it was reported, that she is no longer with WOW, assumably under her own accord. And at this point, I would probably say that's probably best for her. I bring that up before I go into the other things about WOW to say, under the assumption that she chose to leave, I would guess that probably was not an easy decision. It's never really easy just to be like, hey, look, I'm not coming back here. Particularly when it's probably a very alluring thing to begin with. You're on national television. You're getting paid to do what you're supposed to do. I mean, maybe not enough to cover you full time all year round, but you're getting a check. And there is some level of exposure just being in syndicated TV. But the downside here, and I guess we're going to do a little bit of a recap to her overall WoW career. The downside here is that I don't know if she gained anything. And we're talking career-wise. I don't know if she gained anything overall with that. When did I first meet her? It probably was a year or two before WoW aired, maybe. When I spoke to her initially, there was no disciplinarian. She was just Black Diamond Robin Reed, and she might have been on her second Diamonds Division reign at that time. I mean, I'm talking about a while back. She probably was fairly fresh into her career as a wrestler at that point. So seeing her pop up in WoW for whatever it was it was a congratulatory moment. Congratulations, you got on TV, and I hope it works out well, all that good stuff. But then WoW kind of stagnated. That's a nice way to put it. It came and it went, and it came and it went, and it came again, and I guess it's still here at this point. But keep in mind, she pretty much had been involved with WoW one way or the other since 2018. 2018. That's a significant amount of time. When and now I remember it was 2 years ahead of that. I think the last time that I spoke with her was about 2016. But 2018 to 2024, her face had been on WoW's television. And for the most part, there hasn't been any real significant change in her position in that company. She never really became a main event person. She didn't really get the chance to speak all that much. There's no memorable match within that company featuring the disciplinarian. There's really no significant angle that took place with her featuring the disciplinarian. I really struggle to find something that took place there of any significance for the persona. I'm not talking about her as a wrestler, but I really struggle to find anything of any significance featuring the disciplinarian over the span of 5 years. There does come a point when you have to look at it and say, if I have anything left to give, or if I have any options, or if I want to pursue this seriously, you do have to evaluate whether this place is good for you or not. It may be good for some other people there, but I don't know if it was good necessarily for her. If this is something that she wants to do, I haven't spoken to her in years. I don't know. But I assume, and she may have changed her mind over, from 2016 to now. I mean, that's almost 10 years. But I assume if her aspirations were anywhere close to what they were when I spoke to her at that time, that she probably wanted, or at least would like the option or opportunity to try to pursue wrestling on a higher scale, or to be in a more prominent position or something along those lines. And it just did not seem like that was happening with WoW. If there's something that I'm overlooking with the disciplinarians' run in that company, please leave it below. And I'm being very sincere in that, because I honestly cannot think of a single thing that took place there with her in it that was of any importance to that company. Like, there no angle, no interaction, no match, nothing. I cannot think of that. It may have been just time. And I would tend to believe that probably was something that she needed to do. Now, I could be wrong. It could be that they just didn't want it anymore. I don't know. But I tend to believe that she probably just needed to go one way or the other. She needed to reevaluate and put herself into a different environment. And I hope that it works out however she chose to, take that next step in her life and her career. Speaking of people who apparently are no longer involved with WoW, according to a post on Reddit, which was which was a link to the actual IG page. I'm going to butcher her name, but it's Rebel Haze. Under the name, her actual name, I guess, Mandy O'Shaughnessy, I guess. Apparently, she's not coming back. At least, not right now. She posted 6 days ago, as of this recording, in Orlando, Florida. Last night was a dream come true, getting to watch my last wrestling match with my bestest friends in the world. And it has a picture of her standing in front of a big screen, looking at herself on the screen as Rebel Haze. Now, I know Lindsay tunes in every once in a while. She responded to her and asked, so I didn't have to. But she asked, "Oh, are you done with WoW?" The post that Mandy, a.k.a. Rebel Haze, responded with, allegedly, "I guess they forgot to get a hold of me for the new season." Now, I'm going to stop right there for a second to say this. I am not even going to pretend that, I'm sorry that you had to go and it's lost for a while. No, I'm not going to do that, because anybody that's listened to me knows that I did not think of her highly as a wrestler. I just didn't. It's not to say anything about her personally, but I'm not going to just up and change my tune like, oh man, she didn't get a chance to be the superstar that she should have been, or whatever. I mean, Rebel Haze probably has maybe 5 matches under her belt in total. So maybe. And I'll go the extra mile and say, let's say 10. But I sincerely doubt it's any more than that. But regardless of what I thought about her as a wrestler, 2 things stand out here. One, I am not going to discount what it meant for her personally to have that moment, to be on TV. She clearly was very excited about it. She clearly loved the moment of being on television. You could see it in her face when she got the video up and she's in front of her friends there. I mean, I know somebody got to be in the room, even though the video looked like it was an empty bar. But she clearly was very excited about that, and I'm sure it meant a lot. If wrestling is something that she genuinely wants to do, she can go out and pursue it. She can go find, another place to wrestle and probably see the difference in what she does and does not know because of what WoW kind of fed to her, opposed to what the rest of the wrestling industry does. But I don't want to discount the moment. The other side of that is the side that kind of bugs me, and this has nothing to do with her, but it has everything to do with WoW. This is not a new thing. This is an ongoing issue that WoW's had for years, and not telling their talents anything or letting them just wander off into the ether somewhere like, I don't know what's going on. They never contacted me. I just did this a couple of weeks ago with Scheinberg, and I said the same thing about him. I wasn't a big fan of him as a manager, as a referee. I wasn't a big fan of him as a referee. He was very over-exaggerated, too over-exaggerated for my liking, but that does not mean he didn't deserve to have them send you an email at the very least saying, hey, we're not using you during this set of tapings. We may bring you back on another time. Or, if somebody can phrase it well to where it doesn't come off like a firing. Besides, most of them are categorized as independent contractors. It's not a firing for them. It's just, hey, we can't use you this taping cycle. Say something. But this is not new. This goes back to about 2018 for me. The first person that I heard that even brought that up was one of the original WoW girls. And well, I wasn't going to mention her name, but, at this point, I'm just going to say Loka. She found out that she wasn't on WoW because WoW released the roster publicly, and she wasn't on it. They didn't call her. They didn't give her a message. They didn't send her a text. How difficult is that? How do you have this wrestling promotion, on television and not have a mass email list or something, or at least the person's direct email and say, look, I need a personal assistant. If somebody's not going to be on this show, or you're not going to be here for the next set of tapings, or we're not going to invite you back for the next set of tapings, at least contact them. That's just sad. How do you do that? Again, do I think that she was some sort of great wrestler or a big loss for them? No, I don't. But I don't even know this young lady. But she and the rest of them that got that same treatment deserve better than that. You at least notify them. When I see stuff like that, like I guess they forgot to get a hold of me for the next season, that tells me they didn't tell them anything. And the sad part is, it's probably not enough people there to be able to make enough noise for that to change. There's probably not enough people there who are in positions of leverage like, hey, look, you need to start letting them know if they're not coming back, say something. And if Jeannie Buss, this is another one of them things, like she probably didn't have a goddamn clue that even took place. As far as she knows, it's probably still sunshine and rainbows, and I'm living my dream, and I was a little girl, Wonder Woman, Supergirl, and all that other nonsense that's her normal talking points. I'm improving women's sports. Well, this ain't how you do it. If you're going to have a roster that you're just going to, well, we're done with this toy, let's just get rid of it. Or I'll just put it over here in the toy chest and then walk away and forget that it existed, that ain't going to help you. Nor does it help to have somebody there who probably had, let me be on the generous side and say 6 months of training. I know I'm being generous to say that. 6 months of training, and probably being generous to say 10 matches overall, and then go around saying that we had the best women wrestlers in the world. Communication is not WoW's strong point, apparently. Same thing happened when they got canceled off of Access TV. One of their persons who I interviewed, her I won't mention because she's still part of the company. You could probably find it at some point, but she was completely unaware. Why? Because when I asked initially, the response was basically the TV response. Well, you got to get a hold of this person and that person, and they'll arrange an interview for you. Now I don't remember what my exact verbiage was when I responded, but essentially it was. I didn't flat out say that WoW was canceled, but I did mention it within the course of, is there someone else to ask that from? I don't think WoW and Access TV are associated with each other anymore, according to Access TV. It was something along those lines. And then all of a sudden the tune changed and she was perfectly, completely available for an interview then. But she didn't know. She did not know. She had no idea that WoW was canceled off of that show. Katie Marie, their new WoW ring announcer. And before I even begin with her, I'm just going to say right now, I'm taking full credit for this. I'm taking full credit. On her initial IG post, she put something down to WoW was, I'm the new ring announcer, yay, and you can see me every week on the WoW airing on Access TV. That was her post, not mine. Somebody there can ask her what she put down initially. I say put down initially because it's not there anymore. She changed it. Along with the response of me saying, or at least the response from the Women's Pro Wrestling Network account, saying that you may need to check that because WoW is no longer on Access TV. They were canceled off of that. They're now in syndication. And then I checked a couple of days later and I found that the post was changed and my statement about said post was removed. So again, why would WoW allow her to believe that there was still an Access TV? And why did no one speak up and say it? I know I wasn't the only person that saw that post. There were people from WoW that saw that post. Why didn't you say something to her instead of letting her sit out there like an idiot talking about a company that they haven't been involved with for the last 3 years? So, yeah, I don't know why no one else called out the arrow, at least messaged her quietly and say, look, we're not on Access TV anymore. Change that. But, yeah, Katie Marie, you're welcome. I will take Coach's punchline there. I hesitate to call it a catchphrase, but, yeah, I'm going to take that. I'm taking full credit for you being smartened up to the idea that it's not on Access TV. You're welcome. But no, seriously, WoW needs to do something about that. Their communication skills apparently are crap. I can't tell you the amount of WoW girls that went around there, especially before they started airing, constantly telling people, we're going to be on CBS. And over and over and over again, I had to say, no, it is not CBS. It's not CBS proper. You are part of the CBS Paramount umbrella. CBS does not air pro wrestling. And I'm not saying that they wouldn't, but as of right now, they don't. And I know that because I sit there in the hub with that every work day. They don't air that. If they're pushing anything right now, they're pushing Tracker or Papa's House or some of the other sitcoms and Big Brother. They do not deal with wrestling on there. They have it under their overall scope in syndication, but they don't deal with that on the proper CBS network. That does not exist. But even to this day, you got some of them that fully believe, like, oh, we're on CBS. No, you're not on CBS. If it airs on CBS in syndication, that's one thing. But if it ain't airing there between, their daytime hours or primetime hours, you ain't on CBS. That's network time. So anyhow, yeah, I don't know why it is such a task for them to bring it up. I expect stuff like that out of small wrestling companies. I expect that out of indie wrestling companies, particularly ones that don't have a strong infrastructure. And most of them didn't. You know, it might have been one or two people that were operating the office overall from the ones that I had been involved with or dealt with or seen. It wasn't a lot of people that was behind the scenes, but at the very least, they tried to let people know something. I mean, in most cases, it might have been the other way around. Some of the wrestlers might have no-showed, which is also a no-no. Don't do that. They advertise you, at least giving the courtesy of saying, hey, I can't make it, instead of just not showing up at all. I mean, come on. It's called professional wrestling. And that exists before you get into the ring. Anyhow, yeah, their communication with their talent needs to change. And it seems to me that these are the things that Jeannie Buss is just completely oblivious to. Either that or she doesn't care. In any case, to Mandy, I'm speaking directly to you now, Mandy. I absolutely detested Rebel Haze, but I do not have anything against you. But the character Rebel Haze, yeah, I did not enjoy. But listen, I would fully endorse and say, if this is something that you want to do, and if you're thinking about getting back into WoW at some point in time, look, the suggestion here is try one of the other wrestling locations if you can. You know, just try some place. There's probably like 15 or 20 of them down in Orlando, Florida, if that's where you stay. But if that is something that you really want to do, if you really are interested in being a wrestler, not a WoW superhero, there's a difference there. If you're not looking to be a WoW superhero, but you want to be a professional wrestler, I will absolutely respect that. And I would say give that a shot. And it probably will be eye-opening to the difference between the two. It'll probably be an eye-opening experience for you to realize what you didn't know. And then you can really, determine, hey, this is something I want to do or not. Yeah, you did it on a national television stage with some might consider it a high level. But if the wrestling bug ever bites you, give it a shot someplace else, or at least in training someplace else. Now that alone would probably be an eye-opening experience, because with that training you're gonna have to pay for rather than being paid. So, but again, aside from that, wherever it is that you're doing, wherever it is that you go, good luck to you. I mean, again, I saw the video. Look, clearly you were very enamored and happy, as you should be for that, regardless of what I think and what I've said about the persona of the character of Rebel Haze. The person behind those things I do not talk about. I try to make a clear distinction between that. And, maybe somewhere down the line I will be shown a different side of you, much like Kelsey Heather. Who knows? Time will tell. I don't know if I mentioned this a month ago or so. Somebody had posted that the Tonga Twins were seen at the WWE Performance Center. This is old news. I just bring it up to say this. I know I've said it before, but it bears repeating. If they go to the WWE, and I am really nothing against them, I don't think that is a high option for them at this point. I don't believe that the Tonga Twins as an act at this point have enough leverage or pull heat, whatever you want to call it, with the audience at large, that there's going to be a demand for them to be in the WWE or most of the other major promotions at this point. They're going to have to pretty much start it over. The MK Twins are going to have to start this thing over from scratch. They're going to have to rebuild themselves because any wrestling promotion out there, I don't think, looks at WoW as a good resume point. I mean, they may do something, but yeah, I don't think that they look at them that way. But the thing that I really wanted to mention about that is not just that they have to start over, but enough with the they should join the bloodline thing. I mean, come on, enough. There is no reason whatsoever that they should be joining the blood. First off, it ain't their choice. Everybody keeps putting that out there when they mention the Tonga Twins like that's their option. You should join the bloodline. If it were that easy, I'm pretty sure there'd be dozens of people that would just jump into WWE if they had the option, just like, oh, I just want to go. So, no, there's no reason for that. The bloodline doesn't even, up until this point, and they're probably not going to, they're not going to involve any of the women. They got their own storylines there. So, why? Other than the fact that they're Tongan, what other reason is there? You can find something else. That is the easy out. Just join. They're Tongans, so just join some other Tongans. That's an easy out. Find something else for them to do. If you had the pen, if you had the power to pen, if you had the book, find something up for them to do other than that. Because seriously, the bloodline stuff is like every other person that sees anything about the Tonga Twins is like, oh, the bloodline. I can promise you there is nothing for them in the bloodline. Who are they going to, if they were, who would they feud with? Everybody else is tied up in something. And they're not going to just walk in there onto the main roster, bypassing NXT and everybody else because they were on Wild's TV. That is not going to happen. Look at and I'm not making fun of her, but I'm just saying, look at Nikita Lyons, who is the former Faith Alliance, who's probably the only person that left out of WoW and got into WWE, and it wasn't because she was on WoW. She did a tryout and she managed to get in there. And I'm pretty sure, without me having ever met her or spoke to her, she's now discovering what she didn't know. And unfortunately for her, like her biggest selling point has been her ass. And I'm not saying that to be funny, but that's just what she's kind of pushed out there to the public on NXT television. I mean, even the way she pins people, and all it did is just activate a bunch of thirsty dudes. Still, oh, I want her, you know. She is now in a rebuilding phase. Also, she's got to find what she's going to do. And whatever it is that she's going to do, she better figure it out, because you don't want to be stuck in NXT forever. Because after a while, they were like, all right, well, you know, this isn't working out. We got to let you go. And I'm sure that's not what anybody wants. So last, before we go into the IGN interview, is the return of Tadvik the Gamer. Now, Tadvik, I can appreciate that WoW put this in their press release. I did talk about this a while back. But her being in WoW Women of Wrestling, or returning to WoW Women of Wrestling, she is she's been there before. and probably about 4 or 5 years ago. It is good and bad. I mean, for her, I'm pretty sure is good, but she is presented in the press release as a kind of a big signing. And I don't know how it is, because I mean, what does she have, like 4 matches? Maybe. It just doesn't excite me. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. I mean, I know that there's some people like, hey, she's returning and she's the first, whatever, Ghanaian, I can't even say it, wrestler. And it just reminds me of when I talked about before. What was this last episode? If this gimmick doesn't work for you, we'll just slap it on somebody else. Tadvit the Gamer. She gone? All right, we'll get a Glitch the Gamer. So, I don't know what to expect off of that. I don't even know if she's wrestled since then. The last piece of news I ever heard about Tadvik, and I don't know if she's going by Tadvik the Gamer anymore. I looked at her picture. Doesn't look like she's evolved it a little bit. But the last piece of wrestling that I heard about her was probably 5 years ago when she wrestled Leilani Kai, and then she just disappeared. No, you know what? That's not true. That was the last match. The last bit of news that I heard out of her was when she was pitching for herself to be Sister Abigail. That was the last thing that I saw her do. She had a pitch for herself to be portraying Sister Abigail when they were thinking about unveiling a Sister Abigail. And I knew that wasn't going to go anywhere. I was like, no. So they're not just going to take this woman who barely made a blip on the wrestling radar and just drop her into a top-ranked feud, which was a top-ranked thing at the time. No. So no, I don't see this as some sort of major deal, whatever the case would be. But maybe when she shows up on television, it will be something that'll make me say, "Oh, I was wrong." I will reserve my comments about her as a in-ring worker until I see her go back. So I think some people actually started to confuse her with Vert Vixen. So anyway, aside from that, we will move on now to the other news. That being WOW's IGN interview. Now, this is the interview that took place at the San Diego Comic-Con. And it is the same panel. This time hosted by, what's the young lady's name? Let me get my notes. Amelia Emberwick. I hope I'm saying that right. First thing I noticed in this particular interview is that she seemed more knowledgeable. Either that or there was better research done than the variety interview. She actually asked some stuff in relation to pro wrestling. So I wanted to applaud her for that. I wanted to see whether this interview was just straight, as they used to call it, live to tape. I guess at this point it'd be live to hard drive. But you get the idea. I wanted to see how edited it was, if it was. It may not have been at all, but I was just curious. But in any case, she had them, Coach Campanelli, Genesis, Jeannie Buzz, Dave McClain, in their IGN studios to sit down and do this year's Comic-Con interview and talk. Not a terribly long interview. It's about 11 minutes. Something you can easily see. But I did not have a lot of faith in what this interview was going to provide anything new. It was probably going to be a lot of the same stuff. And quite honestly, some of that I still do not get. Now, I realize that this all took place probably on the same day, certainly within the same weekend. But I don't understand, why did they have Coach Campanelli on here with this red tracksuit when she's not currently wearing it on TV? I mean, you would think that she would have gone on there with something representing top tier. I don't know why she wouldn't. And then you got Genesis on there who's representing Exile, even though Exile doesn't exist. You got Jeannie Buss, who she's just a series of talking points at this time. That's all she is. And then you got Dave McClain, who, and I have to give him credit. Of the four of them there, he was like the only person that was able to answer some kind of question, seemingly with answers that can go somewhere, or anything that was important to be asked, he basically jumped in and answered. I don't even think that he was going to allow Jeannie Buss or Genesis or Coach Campanelli to try to do that. And they did their job too. They gassed up Jeannie Buss. Oh, well, I have to thank Jeannie. Jeannie is the reason. Jeannie allows us to do. Jeannie helped us. I'm sure that did wonders for Jeannie's ego, and I got to keep pumping money into this thing. So let's talk about a couple of the questions that they had, and we're going to do a couple of fact checks here. And you can, if I can remember to do it, I will put the link up so that you can listen to the interview yourself. You can see the things that I'm addressing here. The first thing was that the interviewer asked what was the next step for WoW. Dave McClain stepped in and he essentially answered saying that touring was their next step. And he went into explain that, Jeannie Buss liked the company to grow organically and was a big fan of that. And they want to be able to get it to other locations. And I can't say anything wrong with the answer because he didn't say that we're going on tour next month. He just said that was the next step. And that next step could be a couple of months from now. That could be next year. It could be 2-3 years from now. So I can't really get on the response other than to say in its current incarnation, I don't think a tour would be a good idea. Unless Jeannie Buss is just willing to eat the cost of it. If she's willing to eat the cost, then that's fine. If she can put it into a small area, that's probably fine also. And that would be the only things that I would try to do. Like, look, if you're going to take this thing on tour, you need to be going into a small building or something along those lines. But I don't understand the idea of trying to take WoW on tour when they don't really appeal to nor try to find wrestling fans. It's like WoW almost goes out of his way not to be associated with wrestling except when they want to be considered something big in terms of viewership. Like that seems to be the only time I ever even hear them breathe the same air as another wrestling promotion. Like we're the number whatever wrestling thing in the world, and I'll get to that statement in a minute also. But yeah, I don't think that that's a feasible thing. But Jeannie Buss is a millionaire. She's a multimillionaire, and taking it on tour for her might not be that big of an issue. She says that she's paying for this out of her own pocket, it's not being financed by the Lakers. So again, if she's willing to put that up, then that's on her. But I'm also pretty sure that any loss that might be occurred, this isn't a publicly traded company. We don't know what they're gaining and losing. The viewership data is no longer available, at least not readily available. So we don't know what kind of viewer points that they're getting, despite the fact that one person on this in the comment section was saying, yeah, the ratings don't aren't good, or however he phrased it. Those ratings aren't available. So it's. Oh yeah, the guy said it's a waste of time. Nobody even watches while I look at the ratings. Ratings are important to television, but the workaround for that is it being financed and the relationship that Jeannie Buss probably has with Paramount. If it is being independently financed and put on television by her, and again, I don't know what the deals that were made to get WoW on air are. Because it is syndicated, I can only assume that it is not being financed by a network because it's not on CBS network. It should be being financed by Jeannie Buss. They air on syndicated stations across the country, and they do get advertised revenue, which is probably their biggest revenue point at this state. And they only tape like what they did 4 times a year prior to this. This time they're just doing every weekend in the month of August. So it's probably not exceptionally cost heavy for them to produce it. So ratings low or not, I mean, yeah, and I've got on them for their ratings not being great. But it's probably not hurting them, nor does, Jeannie care. Now, it sounds good, but like we've got great ratings, but I honestly don't think they have great ratings. There's nothing to have indicated it before I lost contact of that, unless they've had some sort of massive turnaround in viewership, which I honestly doubt. But, if Dave McClain ever decides to put those up to show the world, which I doubt it'll ever do, I'm just going to go off of the idea that they're probably still somewhere in the nature of about 250,000 viewers, maybe 300,000, possibly. You might get a spike number here or there, but other than that, I don't see it. The interviewer asked, what's the secret to a great feud? This was answered by Coach and Genesis. They did okay, I guess. But it again, it's one of those things. Like I wish it was described a little better out of them. First off, I don't even know why we got 2 heels on this panel to begin with, and then you got Genesis like, oh, I didn't like what Coach did. I'm like, you're a heel. Why are you complaining about what Coach did when she was the babyface? And anyway, that is pointless. The point is, it should have been some other people on this panel, first off. It should have been. But since they did not, they should have been ready to answer wrestling questions. And there are points where they don't seem like they're ready to answer wrestling questions. They're ready to answer questions about TV and being role models and I want to do this for people to look up to me and stuff. They're ready to answer that. That is no problem. But wrestling related stuff seems to be like a bit of a struggle for them. Like I know Genesis said something to the effect of, we're a good rivalry is, having a good feud and both people wanting to win. I was like, well, both people always want to win. I don't know. I don't know if I would consider that a great rivalry. A great rivalry are, generally speaking, 2 persons or 2 entities or whatever the case may be that are perceived as being on a level playing field. They kind of stand head and shoulders above most other people in their rank, and these 2 things, persons, teams, whatever, are the pinnacle. Jeannie Buss is sitting right next to you. Magic and Bird, a rivalry that helped prop up the NBA. Why? Because somebody came along to challenge Magic Johnson. Wrestling does it all the time. Steve Austin was on fire when he hit the WWF as Stone Cold Steve Austin, not as his previous incarnations, but when he found who he was and he started cooking and he became the champion, he was on fire. And he didn't have any peers until The Rock came along, and he's found out who he was. And for a while, they were perceived on the same playing field. They were perceived on the same level. They were different sides of a very close spectrum. They weren't the same, but they were looked at as being head and shoulders above everyone else. And you can go down the line, the Rock and Roll and the Midnight, the opposite ends of the same coin. Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. I mean, you just over and over and on and on and on. Sometimes those rivalries are built out of fan interest. It wasn't necessarily a rivalry, but we'll say a match, dream match. I will toss that into the rivalry category. AJ Styles and John Cena. Why? Because these two guys had years underneath them and never crossed paths until they did. And it was a big deal at that time. I don't expect either Coach Campanelli or Genesis to go into that kind of detail and description about what a rivalry is and what have you. But it'd have been nice if they had been able to deliver something, a little bit more in depth. The interview at some point, I don't remember what the time code was, and she asked with wrestling, she mentioned the Forbidden Door. Let's just start with that. She mentioned that, so I already knew like either she is aware of AEW or somebody on the staff is aware of AEW. But she mentioned that and basically asked, do you perceive WOW as crossing over with them or some wrestling promotion at any point? I wanted to jump in the screen and say no. That is never going to happen. WOW is never going to cross over with AEW. WOW is never going to cross over with WWE. And I'd absolutely bring that up because somebody about a week ago said something along those lines. I hope WOW crosses over with the NWA. All right, so let's stop and talk about that for a second. The reason I say that WOW will never do that is because they don't want to be involved in wrestling. Wrestling is a backdrop for WOW. They barely deal with wrestling media at all. They don't try to appeal to pro wrestling fans by and large. When they do stuff like this, they're trying to appeal to everybody else in the world other than wrestling fans. Most wrestling fans aren't even aware that the Tonga Twins quit because their fans don't do that. Their fans aren't in that circle, which is why I said I don't get on them for not removing them off of the website yet, because as far as their audience is concerned, they're still there. Yes, it's taped. Yes, it's in the can. Yes, they quit. But most of the people that's watching that's not in the circle of being on Reddit or listening to podcasts like this or finding other stuff, other platforms that have covered them, for the few that might be still left, they don't know that the Tonga Twins are gone. So for them, it's still current. But there's nothing to gain for the WWE to cross over with WOW. First off, who would do it? Are they going to bring their championship on the WOW's television? The WWE championship? Women's championship? Who is Liv Morgan going to go there and work a match with somebody? Or Rhea Ripley going to go there and work a match with somebody? Is she going to be expected to lose to any WOW superhero, including the Beast? Is who's the other? Nia Jax. I guess she's the other champion now. Would she be expected to go there and lose? They would never. They don't even really send their top talent to TNA, and that's a far better relationship than what WOW could give them. TNA hasn't really gained all that much other than its. Let me rephrase that, because they did gain some positive buzz, so I shouldn't say they haven't gained all that much. It probably hasn't reflected with them necessarily in ratings, but that's largely because they don't have the availability that a WWE, AEW, even a WoW has. But they got better buzz than that, and their pay-per-views have been doing it. At least they sold out the last one that they was in. Even if it was a moderately sized building, they sold it out because people were genuinely interested in it now. It had some pickup and some buzz. You got some talents there. That you could argue that there's more people on the TNA roster right now who have bigger names than their NXT counterparts, which is why NXT benefits from that. They benefit from having Joe Hendry pop up. They benefit from having the Rascals pop up. They benefit from having Jordan Grace pop up. Those people have names, whereas the people that they're working with are still building theirs. There is absolutely zero to gain for WWE, either Raw, SmackDown, or NXT going into WoW. Same rules apply for AEW. They have nothing to gain from that. A crossover should be beneficial to some degree on both parties. And the only people that would benefit from that is WoW. And the styles wouldn't mesh. I don't know. If you took the people who wrestle on a regular basis and put them on, let's say, NXT. If Penelope Pink were given the option to go there, what do you think she's going to go there as? Penelope Pink or Marina Tucker? Probably Marina Tucker. Because Penelope Pink would sound ridiculous on NXT television. And if she was going to try to put herself over, she needed to be putting herself over as who she is. It shouldn't be a WoW deal. So the indie girls are probably not going to go there as a WoW persona unless they just had to do it. And the WoW girls that's there, if they were sent in this hypothetical situation, probably would be wrestled circles around. Because they would need a week to get their stuff together. So no. Same thing with the NWA. Who is going to show up there and engage with WoW on that level? Like you're on the same playing field as me. Is the NWA Women's Champion going to show up there and put over the WoW Championship as a bigger championship than hers? Or even on the same level as hers? You see what I'm saying? There has to be a gain. And I don't think at this point there's a gain for them to do that. Now, I will say if you were talking about a crossover with an independent promotion, perhaps, if that were the case, I could see it. But ain't many independent promotions out there right now that would do that. Kenzie Page does not need to go to WoW to do anything for the NWA Women's World Championship. Now, she could because she's a traveling champion for all intents and purposes. That would probably be the easiest crossover that you can get if WoW wanted to book her. But then they would have to want to book her. Same thing with the NWA Women's Tag Team Champion, the King Bees. They could go because they're not constrained by anything. But who in WoW's management, would want to do that? I'm pretty sure they would probably feel like, well, if they had them on there, all you're going to be doing is promoting the NWA rather than promoting the WoW and the WoW Championship. And then you have to find a way to try to make those championships seem comparable to each other. Crossovers are not as easy to do as, a lot of people perceive. So no, I wanted to answer that question for them. And Jeannie Bus didn't know how to answer it. She just started talking about something else. She heard the question. I think that Coach and Genesis didn't know what to say about it either. And yeah, they just kind of drifted off into something else. David McClain spoke up, as again, he's the only person that could. And he started talking about WOW is very unique and that it's the only women's wrestling promotion, on television. Well, I don't even think, he didn't even say on television. The only women's wrestling promotion, currently. Which, two things I had, issue with there. One, no, WOW is not the only all women's wrestling promotion. It's the only all women's promotion on television, yes. But it's not the only all women's wrestling promotion. And that should be, noted. Two, he said something to the effect that they're becoming the third largest wrestling company in the world. All right, so let's fact check that. WOW is not the third largest wrestling promotion in the world, and if it is, I need to produce me the metrics that say that. And what are we basing this on? Because I've gone down the number of things that you measure off wrestling metrics with. Live attendance. They only do this. As I'm talking right now, they're doing it for a month. Every weekend this month. And that's it. As far as I've been told, this is like covering the entirety of the year as far as television is concerned. So they can't be talking about live attendance. They don't do pay-per-view. So we can't be talking about that. They don't sell merchandise heavily, so they can't be talking about that. They can't be talking about ratings either because they're behind everyone else. It sounds good to say that we're the third biggest brand, and somebody said that on their WOW social media once before. He was like, yeah, we're number 3. It's like, you're number 7. You're not 3. Because if you're talking about the brand on its own, maybe. But if we're talking about the show, that puts you behind Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Collision, Dynamite, Rampage. That puts you at 7. And then there's no one left, so it's not like that's a real high point. Like I said, it sounds good when you say it that way. Even if we were going off the idea that we're the third in the country. But he said world, that's why I addressed the world. But even if it was going off the concept of we're third in the country, all right, well, what else is available for you to compete against past that point? If you're third in a 3-tier race, then you're last. It doesn't sound good once you explain how many people are in this running. They are not going to compete against MLW for television because beIN Sports is not on that platform. They're not syndicated like that. They don't have the same outlet. They're not going to be competing against the NWA because they too do not have that outlet. But even with them not having the outlet, they have probably as strong a fan base, if not stronger, and they don't even have television. So I don't understand the statement. Never mind the fact that Stardom is a big company. And to say that they're the third largest in the world that's a real stretch, David. I'm sorry. That's a stretch. Because you're leapfrogging a couple of promotions. And the only thing that there's a comparable point here when you're talking about, because we're just going to take WWE and AEW out of that. That is, no one's in their space, especially not the space of the WWE. So let's not even begin that question. But we're talking about the comparables of TNA, MLW, NWA, and WOW. WOW has syndicated TV. The other 3 that I said don't. And even despite the fact that they do not have that, they can go and at least sell out 3,000 seat building. Now I know he's gonna say, well, that's because demand and this, that, and da 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 da. But once you put yourself into that category, you got to deal with the yin and yang of that. You can't just say that we're comparable to these things or we're number 3 wrestling promotion and then not want to be compared to them. But he brings that up. He talks about the Pluto TV deal, which is a good thing for them, and also good on the interviewer. She asked a question following that, saying, okay, so now that you had the Pluto TV deal, 24 hours a day of pro wrestling, and I think it should be noted this is not the first time that they had stuff on Pluto TV. They've had content on Pluto TV all this time. You had to seek it out, but it was there. It was in the video demand section. I think they pulled it at one point, some of the episodes. But the documentaries, I think, were always there. I don't think they ever left. And for a while there, it ran a couple of hours a day on the Pro Wrestling Channel. So them having access or being on Pluto TV is not necessarily new, but them having a dedicated channel is. It should also be noted Pluto TV is also owned by CBS Paramount Global. So I'm sure that their existing deal with Paramount Global has something to do with that. But the answer to, or the question I should say, that the interviewer asked was, will this affect their taping schedule? Will we be able to see stuff faster than what has happened? And to his credit, David he was masterful in avoiding the answer. Masterful. He answered it. He just didn't flat out say no. Because that's the answer that it should have been. It's like, no, it's not going to come out any faster. He said, well, initially it's going to be seasons 1 and 2, and we don't know what seasons 1 and 2 for WoW at this point consist of. I assume it's going to be seasons 1 and 2 of this incarnation of WoW. And he said also season 3. So basically, if you're watching this version of WoW and you just can't get enough of it for some reason, you can go on there and you can just watch it over and over and over again, or it run for a 24-hour period. So the answer for David McClain is no, it's not going to be out there any differently. It's going to be doing the same thing it's been doing. They're going to tape it ahead of time, then they're going to put it up when they put it up. It's not going to increase the turnaround time, so to speak. But it was a good question. I want to say that about the interview. It was a good question that she asked. He did make a point to say that to create a separation of WoW versus the other locations versus WWE and AEW. Like those other wrestling promotions you mentioned, they have to work with the men. We're unique in that we only have the women, yada, yada, yada. Same talk, like I said, a lot of this is the same talking points. The only person that got out of the same talking points was David McClain. Jeannie Buss pretty much repeated everything that she said in every interview that she's ever been in about WoW. When I was a little girl, my dad sat me down and showed me the battle of the sexes, and this is going to change the world. And I'm not trying to belittle it. I'm just saying that these are the talking points that she has had. I read comics when I was a kid. Wonder Woman and Supergirl were my heroes. Now I got real life heroes. It's up to people like me to finance women's sports, and there's a change in the world, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I honestly don't think Jeannie Buss has an idea of what goes on in WoW. When I listen to her talk about it, I really don't. I don't think that she has a goddamn clue. And lastly, what was asked was, and good on the interview for trying, but they avoided this too. If you had to put, say, one match for somebody to watch on WoW, what would that one match be? And then you had Coach and Janice, they couldn't produce anything. And then Dave McClain just did what he did. I'll answer that for you. He just jumped up and like about 3 times within the course of this, he just jumped into the question because they couldn't answer it. And his answer was a pretty vague and generic one. Well, they should just watch all of it. He gave a good explanation. I don't agree with the explanation, but he gave a good one. The explanation he gave was essentially this. If you watch one match, you're going to just see the athleticism. If you watch the entire show, you'll see the characters evolve and grow and the stories unveil, and then you'll be hooked. That was basically his definition of it. Now, I absolutely disagree with that because WoW is awful at telling stories. I actually would go the opposite direction. Like, I'll just mention a match. Just name a match. Watch this match and then see if you come back about it. Because if you look at it for trying to build an angle or a story, that may turn somebody off the way that they do it because it's so absurd. They have so many plot holes. They have so many dips in logic. They have so many things that you just didn't see. They don't build up any emotion. Most of the matches are just random at best. I would never tell anybody to watch WoW as a whole to try to sell WoW. If I were going to try to sell it, I would say you need to watch these. You need to go watch Island Dynasty versus the Fab Four. Go watch Penelope Pink versus the Bees. Those are probably the only two that are off the top of my head. There was a Princess Aussie match, and maybe Aussie versus Del Rey. The Mites and Las Banditas. I definitely would say that. I mean, I would have pulled out at least those matches as a hook. Go watch those. And maybe at the top of that list would have been the Banditas and the Mites. Go watch that match. If you want to see what WoW does, go watch them. But just to say, go watch all of it with the absolute confidence that this show is so good that you will be hooked because the stories will tell cook you like, man, I don't know how you can say that with a straight face, but he also said that WoW has the best women wrestlers in the world, and he said that with a straight face. Now, that's not to discount that they have some good, talented people there. They do. Unfortunately for them, they're kind of dragged down by other people around them that don't know what they're doing. But it was an interesting interview. Interview. Let's try that again. It was an interesting interview for WoW and his panel. I still do not get the concept of we're going to try to sell these wrestlers as bastions of positivity, but then we're going to do that with 2 heels on our show. That makes a lot of sense to me to do that. Not only we're going to have 2 heels on our show, but we're going to have 2 heels that don't look anything remotely like what they're supposed to be currently on television. For whatever reason, we're just going to go backwards in time and we'll have them wearing their old gear. But, hey, it ain't my company. It's Jeannie Buss's company. And she wants to fork out that kind of money to be the savior of women's sports, then be my guest. I'm sure her accountant will find a way for it to get written off in taxes anyway. So, the more I see WoW, the more I wish another wrestling company came along that would push them to doing something better. But what the hell happened to the UWW? I mean, man. That was the only comparable that I saw in the last couple of years, and then it just fell off the face of the earth. And they were, not that they were great, but they were like the opposite. They were like Bizarro WoW. WoW was all backstage vignettes and comics and cartoons and everything else like that. The UWW was good matches, but they couldn't produce video for anything. They were awful. And then they just kind of vanished. I have no idea where they went. I haven't seen another thing about them. They seemingly have not provided any sort of explanation as to where they were going or what they were doing. They had a new logo a while back, and then that was pretty much it. It was like, all right, well, coming soon, join the movement. And that's pretty much where it ended. And all you saw was constant posters of Rob Van Dam and Katie Forbes, and that was pretty much it. It would not surprise me, not to go off into a tangent, but it would not surprise me if they spent themselves into a hole. I mean, because flying everybody in, having Rampage Jackson, having Melina, having Alicia Fox, and the other names that they had when they had it cannot have been cheap. So I don't know what was going on with them. And that's been a couple of months since they have done or said anything. They just kind of drifted off. Anyhow, that was the news, views, and updates. So we're going to get ready for the review. So give it a second, and we will be back after this. And we're back. It is now time for the review of WoW's episode 247. The title, Last Superhero Standing, the chronological number 99. They are pushing it along. The original air date, August the 3rd. And this show began with the WoW commentators. After, of course, the opening montage, the WoW commentators open up the show, and they pretty much start the show immediately. And it should be noted that this airing existed on the same night as SummerSlam 2024. I say that because SummerSlam was goddamn cooking. That was a great show. So if you had Peacock and you was looking to get your wrestling fix, I can imagine that this ate into whatever crowd they might have had. But again, I have said that WoW doesn't really aim to get the standard wrestling fan. So, maybe they did okay in the ratings. I would not be shocked or surprised, excuse me, if they bid it in the ratings a little bit. But the first match that we have here is a return to form. It's the same goddamn feud that they've had for a year now. And let me just go ahead and start with saying that this episode, just in storytelling alone, is a slog to try to get through. Not performance, but just in trying to deal with the constant repeating of feuds. The stories on here, or the angles on here, are just hard to deal with. They are, and they're getting worse. So the Fabulous Four and the Island Dynasty, or at least what was left of the Island Dynasty, that starts off the show. And this has been going on since the Island Dynasty has been formed. Technically, before the Island Dynasty has been formed, because they were coming down to the last of them in the tag team tournament for whatever that tournament was worth. Tonga Twins versus Miami Sweet Heat. This has been pretty much since the beginning. Nigel Zane and David McClain addressed that Miami Sweet Heat always attack from behind. They were talking about attacking the mother truckers. And my first comment there, if they addressing this between the two of them, then why does David allow it? He is the matchmaker. He's the executive producer. He is presented on camera as having power and authority. So why does he constantly allow this? You could not imagine Triple H sitting at ringside, today at least, because now he's like the guy. You couldn't imagine him sitting at ringside and just letting people cheat one after the other in front of his face all night long. At some point, he'd have to do something because it doesn't make any sense for him not to. They did the right thing in there and just like, well, we're going to have a general manager. And thank goodness that their general managers just aren't inherently evil like it's been for the last 20 years. Like you get a general manager job, you got to be an evil person. But yeah, you have to have somebody else do it. And the authority figure can't be sitting out there at ringside constantly because it undermines the fact that these people are cheating all the time. It undermines the promotion and the authority figure because they're allowing it to happen. So why does David McClain keep allowing this to happen? So anyhow, that's just my 2 cents on that. We got the Fabulous 3 because we can't really do 4 in this instance. And Vicky Lynn McCoy has pretty much been relegated to just being the bodyguard and, you know, I guess for her time on TV remaining with the promotion or the program. And not only has she been relegated to that, she's pretty much been just a crash test dummy for, you know, going in there and goofing up and getting hit and whatever. She hadn't done anything of any significance in weeks other than do that, just get kind of beat up. But the match starts out hot. This is Scheinberg in here, and he's trying to tell them, hey, get to your side, and you get to your side, you guys move. He does not project as any figure of authority. He looks like he's just above graduating high school, if that. And they didn't listen to him. It's the same thing as it always is. They just ignored him, and then they started fighting, and he tells them, ring the bell. Island Dynasty clears out the ring. It comes down to Chamorro and Pink. They start off. I will say I was happy that at least carried on. And if that goes somewhere, I would be okay with it. Chamorro seems to have evolved herself a bit. She's no longer playing the role of the underdog. She's fighting. She's fighting, and I didn't really get the whole Penelope Pink gets hurt, she tags out, and then I got to tag out too. But hey, that's their deal. Lori came right into a big gut shot by one of the twins and then tags out their sister Lindsay. So we got the twins dealing with the twins all over again. This is, like I said, this has been an ongoing, non-stop feud. It just will not end. Well, I guess it will now because one of them got fired and or quit. So thank goodness. We won't have to worry about this anymore, at least not in the immediate future. So, I don't know why David McClain decided to point out the bruise on Penelope Pink's ass, but he saw that bruise on there. Whatever explanation he gave, I just was that really that important? You already got people that's out there probably looking at it anyway. Let's not draw more attention to it. But David, they will do that on their own. So the Tonga twins are basically the road warriors in this and pretty much not going off their feet and beating up everybody. The Miami Sweet Heat bumping around pretty well for them. Lori had a nice moment there where she, for the sake of this, I'm just going to say Kona because I don't know which one was which. Where she caught Kona in the head with like a single leg drop kick, or in this case, a high knee, delivers a nice gut shot, and forearms to the back, and all that good stuff. I will repeat that I like Miami Sweet Heat. I don't necessarily think they're the best tag team in the company, but I like them. I just think that they need to be doing something else beyond just constantly in the lane of the Tonga Twins and repeating over and over and over again that we need a title shot. They should have had something of some significance to do by now. Some other feud, but WoW doesn't seem to be very good at producing feuds. The Fab Four or the Fabulous Three, the Terrific Three, whatever you want to call them, did a nice little triple team maneuver. The Twins held Kona and Pink comes over with a blockbuster. I do not know what this little tagging situation that they had over there was. It's like Penelope, I don't know what this was. Like Penelope Pink ran back into the corner, and it looked like she was running to hit somebody, but there wasn't nobody there. I looked at it a couple of times, like I don't know what happened right here. Like, was she trying to run in and hit someone, or was that the spot and she just didn't catch it, or the twin moved out of the way too fast? And that probably was it. I think she ducked and she just charged in. But the way that the camera cut, it's like I almost couldn't even see it. Because I know that she's better than that. But it just happened pretty fast on the cut. But she charges in. She tried to catch Connor. She ducks underneath out of there. And then she makes the tag. And then Chaos. And I might be getting them backwards, but, just work with me. She comes in, and then they take over on her. And basically just put her in the same position that her sister was in like 2 seconds earlier. So, getting along in the match, it comes down to, another breakdown and brawl. It seems like that's the overall way that these things go. Tiki gets in. She takes over on Penelope Pink, trips her up, drops to the second rope. She gets ready to do her 619. I don't know what she calls it. I forget. But Vicky Lynn did the old bodyguard thing, came over there and caught her feet, stopped her from nailing Penelope Pink, and then one of the twins kicked her in the head. Then Scheinberg are like, hey, you can't do that. You got to stop. And despite the fact that this brawl broke out behind him just feet away, he still stays down there yelling at Vicky Lynn McCoy for some reason. And then the twins did, the twins, they're both twins. The Tonga twins did what the Tonga twins would normally do. They negated the Miami Sweet Heat, but somehow, even when they did that, they just like kind of laid down on at least one of them. Just kind of laid down on the ground past that point. Vicky Lynn gets in. The other twin helps out Tiki tomorrow by giving her a super kick. Penelope Pink tries to charge in on Tiki. Tiki catches her and hits her with an STO. I think they called hers a coconut crush. And Tiki won. Tiki won clean. Again, hey, I'm all for Tiki having an evolution and a growth in who she is and not being the aw shucks, I'm just doing my best to try to win type girl anymore. She actually is presenting and showing like she's a competitor. What I would like to see past this point is Tiki and Penelope have something come from this. I mean, it's right there in front of them. It's on a silver platter. It would be very easy to just have, Pink be upset about the fact that this nobody beat me. And I have to prove to the world that I'm better than her. Now, however that unveiled itself, that would have been fine, but it would be, I'm not going to say it would have been. It would be nice if they managed to get something from this opposed to it just being a random match just to pair off the Fabulous Four and the Island Dynasty again because we don't know what else to do. I have my fingers crossed that it will get something. A clean win by Tiki over Pink should be, going somewhere. The commentators, God, for whatever reason, say simultaneously, what a team. This is everything that I was afraid of with Nigel Zane working with David McClain. Who does this? Why are we trying to do it? And this is not no mistake because this is like the third or fourth time that Dave McClain's done this with somebody. First time I heard him do it, he did it with Stephen Dickey. It's like, we got to have our cue so we can say the beast is unleashed together. And this time it's like, we got to say what a team together. The more he works with David McClain, the more he just becomes an extension of his voice. And that should not be it. Should not have just two guys in there who provide the same outlook on everything. It's just they're like merging their voices now, literally. This was a nice match, but my question was, is it going anywhere? This feud should be done. That was the note that I put in here. The next segment, Jessie Jones comes out to the ring and she cuts a promo, and she does a great promo. Good fire. She's aimed her heat at David McClain like every heel. The difference is that she didn't basically give him the opportunity to hold conversation with her. She just fires at him. And then she goes off into, why is she not getting a title match? Why is Tormenta getting another one? She pretty much is pointing out the obvious. And David tries to justify it on the mic, seemingly not to her, but to us, the listening audience. Like, well, she was a former Mexican champion. So let's pause for a second. Now, I like Tormenta. And I am not doubting her in-ring work, abilities, skill, however you choose to phrase it. But come on. The only thing that they have been able to give her for a year now as a level of credibility, or in this case, to justify another title shot, is that she was a phantom champion in Mexico. And the reason that I say phantom champion, because I'm sure she's had titles in Mexico, is because they never identified what title this is that they're talking about. They just say that she's a former Mexican champion. And let's examine that. Now, what does that mean in relation to WoW? In the kayfabe universe of WoW, why is that somehow the thing that's like, well, you're a former Mexican champion, you deserve a title shot. Or you deserve another one, and another one, and another one. The beautiful thing with this promo is that Jessie Jones called out the thing that she needed to call out. This is everything that I said about them needing a different voice in that commentating booth. Because you can't, well, they could, but they're not going to have Nigel Zane call out David McClain on things that don't make sense. You need a heel for that. And Jessie Jones, in this instance, even though she's not part of the commentating team, was that heel. I mean, she pretty much said Tormenta's had more title matches than Jessie Jones has lost, period. And like, how can you argue that? And the only retort, even if it wasn't aimed at Jessie Jones, the only retort that he has to justify it is that, well, she was a former Mexican champion. Where? When? Where's the footage of this? What difference does it make? What is her being a Mexican champion, or whatever champion of all of Mexico? No promotion, just champion of all of Mexico. Where did that become a thing? And it goes back to what I said at the beginning. We clearly see that he's the authority figure when he's doing stuff like this and openly acknowledging that he is essentially the reason that Tormenta has a shot. He can do what he wants to do, but yet I'm going to sit here and, I'll call people cheating right in front of my eyes, but I won't do anything about it. Without rhyme, reason, or explanation. So anyway, this is a good promo. Jessie's always been good on the mic. In this environment, she's a perfect wrestler. In the ring and out. Thank goodness for her in this episode. I'm really thank goodness for Jessie Jones in this episode. And that she didn't sit there bantering back and forth with David McLean. She got on that microphone and she told him what she thought about him. Now, I am not in favor of them constantly coming out there pointing the finger at David. David, I got a problem with you. I'm not in favor of that all the time, but in this particular instance, it works. Next segment, top tier. And the top tier promo and the top tier locker room. I know it's the top tier locker room because they made sure to stand directly in front of their own posters. What is with that? Why do we have to turn around in unison and why do we have to stand in front of our own posters? I mean, we get the point that this is your goddamn locker room just by you standing there. And anyhow, I don't know who is the set design. I've not liked the set designers in WoW at all because it's just unnatural crap that they usually put in the background. I understand if you have WoW posters, but the idea that if I do a promo, I have to be directly in front of the poster of me all the time. I mean, once in a while, maybe. But every time they do it, it is always in front of their own stuff or is nearby or is around the corner. At least when they did the Genesis promo about, what was it, a week ago? It was a it was a poster that was seen in passing. The camera pulled in, or I shouldn't say pulled in, it trucked left. It saw the poster on the locker, and then it got to Genesis. And you didn't see the poster anymore. She was just there in front of the lockers. Here, they're in front of these posters for who knows what. Because I guess we wouldn't know who they are without him. So anyway, they cut their promo on getting back in the ring with Ariel Sky and that she can't beat them even though she's beaten them on multiple occasions now. And it's setting up for Kandy Krush this time, taking on Ariel Sky. Now, I like Kandy Krush in the ring. She ain't perfect. There's potential in her. But promos are not her strong suit. She should have somebody talking for her. Coach needs to be doing that for her. Coach is a far, I give her crap when she's being coached elsewhere. But on camera, at least, she can articulate. And she can deliver. Kandy Krush hasn't found that gear yet. She's seemingly comfortable on camera, but she's dry. Like the let's go thing is almost cringeworthy. It sounds dry and it sounds forced. Somebody needs to work with her about that and try to get something else out of her. If she's going to insist on doing that promo, you almost need to probably stand in front of her, prodding her with a stick to make her mad to where it sounds forceful. and angry, because the way she does it, it just sounds like somebody who wants to yell but not really. You ever seen the movie The Other Guys? If you haven't, you should. There's a scene in that movie called The Silent Fight, or at least that's what it's been labeled since then, where these guys get into a fight like a, I think I brought this up before, at a funeral, and that, hey, you guys need to stop doing that. That's kind of what let's go. She is yelling, but not really. Somebody needs to get there, like, no, yell. Say this like you getting ready to go in there and knock somebody out. Don't hold back. Get it out. It doesn't sound like, it's hard to say it doesn't sound like her, but it doesn't sound like her. It sounds like you're just playing a part right now. It doesn't give me the feeling of authenticity at all. And that's what she's missing. There's no authenticity there, or no sincerity that comes across. It might be sincere, but it does not translate on camera. So they go off after this segment promo. Then we cut to Ariel Sky doing her promo. Now, the only good thing here is that she does a decent promo, but the content of this promo is ridiculous, and because why are they still even involved in this? It's a nice backdrop. At least she doesn't have any posters of herself back there, but why did she have Gold Team Spirit in the back? She ain't even been associated with Team Spirit. There's like stuff on the wall, we love you, coach, and coach is, why would you even be in front of that? Yeah, I know it's supposed to be scratched out, but what else did they have? An eye on the prize, a little heart, and some pom-poms in the back. Just dumb stuff. And the fact that this is just always carrying on. And then somebody said the same thing that I said, that she always looked like she's on the verge of tears. Every time you see her, she looks like she's ready to cry. Like, it's almost frustrating. It's frustrating that it is a constant, never-ending loop of Ariel Sky and top tier. It's frustrating that she gets put in this situation where she has to seemingly go backwards into, you treated me wrong, coach. That whole thing all the time. When is this going to end? And it's like they booked this thing backwards. We get involved in this. She gets hurt. Not hurt. She gets dumped and attacked. Then she goes groveling. Then she's forced into the group. Then she wins the freedom. Then she beats him in the sixth person. Then she beats another sixth person. It's like, what is it going to take? And coach should have been the top of the food chain as far as top tier is concerned. So why is she now working backwards and going down? Why is she now, okay, I've won my freedom from coach. I'm allegedly done with top tier. But now I'm going to take on Kandy Krush. For what? And I think I said this too. What does top tier have to gain from this? Shouldn't they be doing something else? They pitch themselves as being the greatest group in WoW. But how can they be? It's just on and on and on and on with this. And it's the same cycle of events. Ariel Sky goes out there. She has a match. Whether she wins or loses, she gets beat up, and then a team comes out there to save her. This is the third team to come to her rescue. The third one. What, are you going to go through the entire tag team division? I mean, god damn. What is it going to take? WoW cannot let this angle go. I don't know why, but somebody in the back must think like this is just absolute gold. And this is surprising. This comes out from the minds of two people who collectively should have probably 60 years of wrestling experience. At best. I mean, I'm probably shortchanging to say that. But collectively, they should have 60 years of experience between the two of them. And this is the best angle that you could come up with. This is easily the worst angle in wrestling right now, if not of all time. This is so terrible. The only thing that could possibly be worse is some goof on the indies who doesn't have the budget or the skill set to do anything better. What is Wow's excuse? So anyhow, we get to the match. Ariel Sky and Kandy Krush starts off with Krush charging in, Sky ducking underneath. They're having a little, miscommunication there seemingly for a second. Krush, what is going on here? Because it seemed like it was supposed to have been Sky ducking underneath a clothesline and hooking in the rear waist lock and then taking her down. She managed to get it in there at some point. Then she mounts Krush and starts firing forearm shots. Now, I wish that the cameraman did not get as close as he did because those forearm shots were clearly not connecting with much of anything. They were very light, and it showed as being very light. And, yeah, you ain't in there trying to brutalize nobody. You're not trying to hurt them, but you at least got to try to make it look good on camera. Unfortunately, sometimes that requires laying it in. I mean, it ain't much of a way to kind of to fake contact. So they did a couple of spots with each other. Sky's going for the pin as she should. Don't know why at this point Ariel Sky would go out to ringside with Top Tier in full force on the opposite end. I don't know why she would do that. At this point, you probably should have learned the lesson or at least kind of figured that, hey, you know what? They might try to jump me because the precedent for that has been there already. But she didn't do that, so, she came out by herself as she normally would, and she got involved in this match, and you pretty much was just waiting on the time that Top Tier would intervene. And again, same rules apply. David McClain's out there, and he's actively calling the fact that they're cheating. They didn't do anything about it. We got Kandy Krush, who decides to distract the referee at some point following a series of shoulder blocks and the Ariel Sky's back in the corner. Of course, it's the heel corner. And I don't know what she was saying. If she's like, hey, look at my fist. I don't know what that was about. So she takes the referee away, and then Top Tier, the members that are left, Coach and Gloria, take a shot or two while the referee's distracted. At least the referee here looks engaged in the argument, and doesn't look like she's just like, oh, what are you talking about? What's going on? She doesn't look lost in her debate, if you will, with Kandy Krush. So Ariel Sky is fighting back. She's trying to do the underdog thing, but Kandy Krush is in control. The match is not important. Sorry to say it, but it's not. It's just another match in a series of matches with Ariel Sky dealing with and getting brutalized by the team of Top Tier because they just cannot seem to find any other victim, I guess, apparently. This match ends when Kandy Krush gives Sky a Olympic slam. What was it called here? A punching bag or something like that. It's a heavy bag. It really wasn't all that important to me to memorize what the name of the move was because why? So they come in and Coach is showing off her trophy, the old worthless trios trophy that they got. And they go out there and attack Ariel Sky, of course. And this time, it was Stephanie Slays and Jay Boogie coming out for the save. Like I said before, this is the third team to come out and save her, following the Mother Truckers and following the All-American Girls. What happened to that big speech that the Mother Truckers gave about, you got a friend in us? And, like they haven't seen her since then. They certainly haven't helped her since then. It's like, all right, well, we're done. We helped her this one time, moving on. Same thing with All-American Girls. Like, what was the point of that? They helped her, and then they just, all right, we're finished. We'll just pass you off to somebody else. And that's pretty much what it is. It's like this is a rotating cast of saviors. And I wrote down, are they that short on ideas that they have to recycle the same angle repeatedly? Is that alone was mind-boggling. And I repeat, this comes from the mind, or at least created and or approved by people who have been involved in the wrestling business for at least collectively over 60 years. Between the two of them. And if either of them look at this as a angle that is good, there should be some real reevaluation that's going on in the creative world of that company. And it's every reason that I said that if Dave McClain is trying to sell people on WoW and his idea is like, well, you should just watch this entire show and watch all our stories unfold. Yeah, I think that'll work against you rather than help. Except for the ones that just want to see Ariel Sky run around in tights. Or Kandy Krush or Glitter or Coach or whoever the hell. The match is fine, but it's pointless. It's just going to give you, I assume, the same thing. I guess we got another 6-person tag coming around the corner. Next match, the Heavy Metal Sisters versus the Dojo Defenders, which is apparently the final match that Rebel Haze participated in, if we're going to go off of what she had on her Instagram. And the match that she was standing in front of on her Instagram. So, this is another match that doesn't have anything behind it. It's a cold match. There's no feud, no angle that went into it. No feud or angle that came out of it. It's just a match. And I really didn't even know what to think about this thing. I mean, I am not a big fan of Rebel Haze. I think I've been clear about that. And the commentators have tried to make this out to be like the same damn thing that they always do. So-and-so, they're making a name for themselves. They're growing. They're doing this. They're doing that. It's like this idea that everybody is on the upward swing and no one else needs a win. It's always, they're doing good. They're doing good. They're doing good. And that's where they started off with the Dojo Defenders. It's like Zayn saying they're making a name for themselves. My question was how. I underlined that in red. Like, how? How are they making a name for themselves? They haven't won anything yet. And then as soon as I wrote that they haven't won anything yet, he follows it by saying they defeated the Brat Pack. I said, when? That was a no contest. When did they defeat the Brat Pack? She knocked BK Rhythm out. And it was declared a no contest right there on TV. First off, these are taped matches. If I have a match that's going to end like that, I'm probably not going to air that match unless I have something that I'm going to do with it later on. If BK Rhythm, let's say, comes back, or if she came back in the middle of this match and just attacked Terror Strike for hitting her in the chin and knocking her out, and just beat her up around ringside and whatever, and they started a feud from that, then I was like, okay, then it being on TV makes sense. But just having her in there just because, all right, well, we knocked her out and we got to show it. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's not going to be used for anything. It doesn't have any value to you in terms of the match itself or the match going to a no contest. There's nothing to be gained from that. You can't even really utilize. Well, you could utilize it, but I doubt that WoW will. So I don't know what they were going with that, and now is putting over the Dojo Defenders so they can look like a competent team. Stepping in there against the Heavy Metal Sisters, who, well, I guess is incarnation number 5 or somewhere along there. So I assume that we're going to get another incarnation of it by the next season when they find some other rocker chick to join the group. So Haze looks silly, as always, overreacting and very exaggerated. And she's every bit the cartoon character that I've always said that she was. She can't go 2 steps without doing the devil's horn thing. So it pretty much came down to Fury and the others. Terror Strike and whatever. I don't know. Hope I remember to get that out too. Anyhow, Terror Strike tags out to her partner. What was her name? Crap. I have completely dropped out on whatever her name is. And just as soon as Kai. That's it. Kai. Anyway, so Kai's in there and she takes on Fury and she's doing reasonable. But like I said, this on its own, the match is fine, but it's not going anywhere. It's not setting up anything. It's not producing any sort of future content for them to go into. So if you're just looking at it on the surface of the match, the match is fine, but there's not really anything important here to pay attention to. Fury does take control again at some point when Terror Strike gets back into the ring. She sets her up on the ropes, delivers a nice knee to the shoulder of Terror Strike. I don't know if that was what she was aiming for necessarily, but that's what she got. Before she did that, she did a nice backhand. Her backhand game was strong. They did it was a nice tag. They did a tag, the Heavy Metal Sisters, and of course that had to do the old Rock On Devil Horns tag. And then they take advantage of Strike for a little while. As you can tell, this match was just okay. I'm sure that it made Rebel Haze very happy to be able to see herself on TV, and I'm glad that she got that moment. And she got a chance to show herself for a little bit, but ultimately, let's get to the end of this. Kai gets back into the ring. She takes advantage or takes over on Rebel Haze, hits her with a Northern Lights. Fury comes in and saves the day. Strike nails Fury, drops her out of the ring, which gives the opening for Kai to take control. Kai hits Haze with a eat defeat. She sells it bad too, just as bad as Goldie Collins did about a week ago. I don't know why they're unable to sell that, but she takes it and crumbles up in front of her. Boom, and then 1, 2, 3, she's done. And I guess that'll be the end of Rebel Haze, and Fury can go back to being the Heavy Metal Sister up until Dave McClain finds somebody else that's going to just fill the void of being the new Heavy Metal Sister, because I'm sure that he will not let that name go for this 30-year-old gimmick that's existed from Glow up until now. From the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, and 2020s. Heavy Metal Sisters. Because that gimmick was so groundbreaking and innovative that we just cannot let this go. So, nothing coming out of that. I don't know what to say other than It was nice to watch, but I don't think you're going to get much else beyond that point. While this happened, David is still selling Tormenta as a former Mexican champion, and it's the single accolade that Tormenta has. They try to make the main event into a main event. The commentators pitched to Tormenta's video package, and it is a nice video package. I certainly cannot knock it. It was very well done. But it also profiled her as a sympathetic figure. And yes, she's a babyface. But how can I put it? The Beast is already babyface. So we got a babyface versus babyface match. It's enough that they're going to kind of split the audience in that regard. And I'm not opposed to babyface versus babyface matches. However, I am opposed to it when there's really nothing that you're getting from it. And I just didn't see anything that they were getting from this, because it's not like we did this to kind of set up Tormenta for something, or they could be presented as a feud to kick off for the future or come back to, or that there's this big struggle for. I'm like, there was almost no emotional moment that they got out of this when they could have potentially, I should say. I just did not see anything of value coming out of this match. The video was very nice, and it got you to understand Tormenta, her love for wrestling, and her sacrifice and get into the wrestling business, that she had to leave her son behind, which, by the way, I would say that is a proper way to feature someone's child on TV and not just have them be at ringside and be the focal point of everything that they say and do for, ad nauseum for Americana. But yeah, I mean, it was very nice to have. But very nice to have and not having anything from it. It just didn't feel like this meant anything. And it also, because of how WoW has done things, made me walk into this feeling like she's going to lose. Like they're going to tell it, they're telegraphing this. And that's what it came off as, and that's pretty much what happened. Anytime somebody gets some sort of profile on themselves preceding a match, is almost a surefire loss in WoW's universe. And this was no different. So it was nice, but the video is misplaced in my opinion. This should have been when she turned babyface. And then you could have built her towards getting a title shot. She finally receiving the title shot that this time she earned, rather than just having it handed to her. And then she has a match with the Beast, and she can go the distance or try and just come up a little bit short. And, then you have a moment beyond that. You had the Beast raise her hand or, something. Give her the instruction. Hey, when this is over, raise her hand for, she pushed you to the limit or something like that. Nothing like this happened. And it just went on. But anyhow, we got to get to that one. So the next thing was the segment. They advertised next week's main event, which is a tag team match, or assumably a main event. You never know how they do their lineup. And they advertised a tag team match with the Mother Truckers. The only thing that I didn't get is they don't out and out say who the opponents are going to be. It's like, tune in and watch WoW, and the Mother Truckers, the tag team champions, and then they'll show clips of Siren and Chainsaw. So I don't understand that why they wouldn't say the name. They're showing them. So just say it. I don't know why they just don't do it. And then we get to the main event. Tormenta, newly babyface Tormenta, coming out with her friend Sophia Lopez. And then the Beast comes out on her. Now, Jessie Jones has already come out to the commentating booth, and in unison, again, they announce her. I don't know. What is this childish commentating team doing? I mean, this is like a commentating team for 10-year-olds. Who does that at all? But they decided to announce in unison, and thank goodness again for Jessie Jones here for being able to sit there and call out the flaws in this program. Thank goodness for her for that. I am so happy that she was able to just, be able to poke the holes in things that you could drive a truck through. Because it didn't make her look silly or stupid. And that's probably internally her aim. Like, I am not going to let myself look like a dumbass out here by just saying stuff just to say stuff. Call it for what it is. Tormenta just got title shot after title shot. I like her, but it's the truth. And whether it was warranted or not, she just has a title shot. And then we got Sophia Lopez, who I said before probably wanted to be a babyface anyway because she didn't really behave when she came to ringside as a heel manager. She did it once the bell rang. That's why I said repeatedly that her behavior on TV was confusing. She did one thing and then she turned around and did the opposite and, like the same breath. Come out here shaking hands and then I'll cheat. And they never explained it. They never tried to show her as being disingenuous. They just let that happen. But now, because she's a babyface, it's almost like she's completely neutralized. She has nothing to do and seems directionless. I don't know where they would go with her with this because she didn't stay at ringside, so there was really no point in her going out there. She's not going to cheat. She's not going to use the briefcase. Where do you go with her from here? I mean, there have been babyface managers, but I don't know if WoW has the ability or knows how to utilize a babyface manager. And there's no reason for you to have a manager in a match like this. It's not like she has to neutralize somebody. A babyface manager in cases like that are there to neutralize a problem. Whether that be through outthinking the opposition or being a physical presence to physically stop them. Well, she ain't a physical presence, so she would have to be the one to outthink it. But the Beast is the babyface, and the Beast doesn't have a manager. So there's really no point in her being there. And which is why she just left and then went to the commentating booth, which everybody does. I don't have anything else to do, so I just come over here and sit at the commentating booth. Now, as much as I like Jessie Jones, this is basically her being set up for a title match. At least that's what it appears like. Now, if they somehow drop off and she doesn't get a title match beyond this, then I don't know what to say about it. But that seems to be the overall idea. Like, let's get Jessie Jones set for potentially challenging for this championship. Jones calls out the winning matches doesn't get you title shots in WoW. Politics does. It was great stuff. Great stuff. She made this palatable. Because aside from the fact that it's Tormenta and, the matches have been, decent, and they were, but these are mostly repeat matches. Fabulous Four and Island Dynasty, Ariel Sky and Kandy Krush, even though they might not have personally gone against each other one-on-one, it's still Ariel Sky in top tier. And then you got, Tormenta and the Beast, which has already happened. The only match that was there throughout the course of this night that was new was the Heavy Metal Sisters and Dojo Defenders, and, that was a pointless match. Anything else of substance has already been done. Now they can come out of some of those with a nice exit or a new path to take. Like I said, the Fabulous Four and the Island Dynasty wasn't really high on that match, but it could lead to something else that could be interesting. Chamorro and Pink. Not really high on Ariel Sky versus top tier at all. They need to just get away from this as soon as possible. Heavy Metal Sisters and Dojo Defenders, And then we got the main event, and we've seen this main event quite a bit. Nothing new. Jones made this very palatable just in her commentary. And she put the other two to shame. Now, this is their main event match. And I'm not saying every main event match needs to be some sort of back and forth 15, 20, 30-minute classic or something like that. But this match is probably all of like 3 minutes long. Maybe. So it's another reason why I say I don't know how David McClain with a straight face can say, yeah, we got the best women's wrestling in the world. And you'll be able to judge that off of, just the episodes. Like the angles suck. And there's very few championship matches that they can point at and be like, well, this could stand comparatively against whoever. Like, I seriously doubt that, bro. This highlighted for me that the Beast and by proxy, the Mother Truckers really don't have much going on. The Beast might have left out of this with something happening just because Jesse Jones was there, but most of their stuff is just matches. And if we're going to, let me sidebar for a second. If we're going to look at the match or what the Beast is doing or what the Mother Truckers are doing, that's their champions at this moment, even though the title probably changed as I'm talking because they're doing a year's worth of content in a month. I know that sounds weird, but yeah. Comparatively speaking, she doesn't have anything really going on. The Beast has matches, but she doesn't really interact with anybody. She's got no feud. Neither do the Mother Truckers. I mean, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan at this point have heat. And it's basic. It's not like they did anything complex. Rhea Ripley gets hurt. Liv Morgan takes credit for it. Ripley has to give up the title. Liv is running around not just taking a title that she had to relinquish, but now I'm actively trying to take your boyfriend while you're gone and integrate myself into the group that you're in while you're gone. She comes back, she being Rhea Ripley, and then now we've got this feud on the horizon. She had a ready-made feud for her the moment she came back because they were smart enough to see it and not fight against the tide. A similar thing happened with the Beast when she got hurt in the match with Tormenta, but what did WoW do? They did the proverbial, hey, you're wearing this hat, let me give you another one. They brought her back, her being the Beast, after being injured on their TV, announced that I'm better, David, I'm back. And then within 15 minutes, she was injured again and off TV. Pointless segment that did nothing, just so they could shoehorn Vicky Lynn McCoy in as the perpetrator. When they could have just kept Tormenta as the one. And then you could add a rivalry at that point. Could have gave her a little bit more substance in what she was doing. If she had taken credit for having injured the Beast, putting the all-powerful Beast on the shelf. And now that she's out of the way, I'm going out of champion. Well, you know, whatever. But no, they didn't want to do that. They just kept, you know, Tormenta as the person that gets the title shot but don't get the title. And they kept the Beast the Cyborg, who came in and just beat up on everybody. So anyway, like I said, this match is pretty short. It's not, you know, not a lot going on there. It's probably all of like 3 minutes long. So there's no real need for a blow-by-blow and a play-by-play, but they did have some hard-hitting moments, including German suplexes and Tormenta coming in with the old double knees across the gut and all that good stuff. It comes down to Tormenta getting the Beast on the ground, or on the mat, I should say. And then she's going up top to get ready for her the meteor off the top rope, even though she looked like, she being the Beast, looked like she was way out of position for that thing. I don't know if Tormenta would have ever connected to her, even if she did, even if the Beast didn't move. So the Beast is laying there. Tormenta goes to the top. Tormenta comes down. The Beast gets out of the way. The Beast sets herself up immediately as Tormenta rolls through, and she hits her with a spear. It's great execution there. And Tormenta kicks out of the spear. The problem with that particular moment, I mean, they did not do anything wrong. This does not fall on Tormenta, nor does it fall onto the Beast. Is that the spear from the Beast had not been established, at least on their television, as enough of a finisher that Tormenta kicking out of it was a big deal. Now, the commentators tried to make it a big deal, but it just didn't go through. So the Beast gives the she's done sign, brings the thumb across the throat, and then she gives her the power bomb, or at least attempts to. And for the second time since they crossed each other, the power bomb with the Beast and Tormenta just does not work. The Beast loses her, she collapses, and she landed the power bomb to some degree, but it didn't look good. That's not a knock on the Beast, it just didn't. She probably should retire using that with persons about equal size. If she's gonna have problems with getting it up or holding them up, she may not want to do that again. I don't know if it was just a moment in the ring or whatever the case would be, but she certainly should not repeat it more than necessary. So Sophia Lopez gets up from the commentating booth because she was trying to rah-rah and cheer for her girl, even though, I don't know why she would go to the commentating booth if she's going to be a cheerleader for her. She should have just been at ringside and cheered for her there. But the Beast won clean, and Lopez goes over and, comforts Tormenta, which is why I said the babyface versus babyface thing meant nothing here, because she just essentially just got her and walked off. There wasn't even time or a presentation for the audience to absorb the fact that Tormenta gave it her all. And when you have a video package like that, that's what you're getting sympathy. It should have been a moment where Tormenta was praised for giving her all. You don't have to win everything, but you could have gotten something out of a hard-fought, sincere effort in the match. And that was squandered. So, Tormenta and Lopez walk off. Jessie Jones, like I said, did a great job in commentating and in her earlier promo. And then she gets up and she, gives the old gunpoint to the Beast after the match. Just that the end, even though I think it should have went into another direction, I am perfectly fine with Jessie Jones pretty much positioning herself as a top contender. I hope that she actually gets it. Now, somewhere during the course of this, they brought up Abilene Maverick, which concerns me because I was like, okay, are they going to try to turn this into some opening for Abilene Maverick to come back in and get the title match, or Jones changing sides on her? Did they ever explain when she was allegedly locked in the locker room and she couldn't get out because of this bandana that was wrapped around some handles? WoW does horrible storytelling. They do horrible storytelling. But anyhow, that was the plus, is that Jessie Jones might get a title shot. But she certainly was the highlight of this show. She was the absolute highlight of this show. And if there are other wrestlers there that can do that, shine despite the fact that WoW does dumb stuff, then maybe they will succeed in that company in spite of the stupidity of the booking or the stupidity of the performance of the people around them, David McLean included. See Penelope Pink doing the contract signing the same way that I said about Jessie Jones, the same thing I would say about her. Thank goodness she had the ability to get through that without making herself look like an idiot. Thank goodness Jessie Jones was able to call out the facts of the WoW universe. It's not like she even made stuff up. Normally you have a heel that would just make stuff up. But she didn't even have to do that. She called out what was clearly evident. Why is she getting another title shot? She's lost every title shot she's gotten. There's no reason for her to have a title shot. And the line in there, winning matches doesn't get you title shots, politics does, was absolutely nailed on the head. And WoW's own program pretty much solidifies that. When you're looking back and you have an undefeated Jessie Jones who was going into wanting a spot in that championship challenge fiasco, and then you got Dave McLean like, well, you got to win one more match. Like, well, what's one more match to somebody who's already undefeated? Didn't make sense then, doesn't make sense now, but that is why I am so happy that Jessie Jones was able to do what she did. The video preceding this match helped me like Tormenta, and it made her likable, but it wasn't well used. And that's pretty much all you can really say for her in this environment. She was a placeholder. Even though they set her up good, they gave you a reason to like her, they gave you a reason to root for her, but they dropped off right after that match was done. She just got out of there and you didn't see anything about it. No follow-up. So, pointless. This was not a good episode for me because it required having to deal with and having to see all the recycled angles and rivalries. And it's not moving on anywhere. And even the match that they had that was just kind of clean, that being the Heavy Metal Sisters and the Dojo Defenders, and I had to sit through Rebel Haze. And even though, as I stated earlier, I'm sorry that she got the company treatment that she did, I am not sorry to see the persona of Rebel Haze out of there. Hopefully, if she is looking to pursue this, I will reiterate, if she goes somewhere else and she starts to learn wrestling outside of the WoW environment, it might be a different story. As it is right now, I don't think that is going to be I don't think we're going to be seeing Rebel Haze pop back up in anybody's wrestling ring anytime soon, or Mandy, or what, I can't even pronounce her last name. Not even going to try. So that was the review of the 99th episode of WoW Women of Wrestling. So the next time that we do this, they will be on their 100th episode. It'll be 248 for them, but 100th episode overall. And I doubt that they'll do anything special about it. It'll probably be just another day in the neighborhood as far as they're concerned. No reason to celebrate it or do anything, extraordinary, set off some fireworks or whatever the case may be, special match that they could have been leading to or anything along those lines. In fact, I know that they didn't do that just because I saw the preview as I always do. Now, considering when I anticipate this is going up, because there's a lot of things going on. In personal land, my child is moving off. She's going to college, so there's been a lot of time that's been occupied in that sphere. So I haven't really been sitting down in the old lab as of late. But as I've noted before, I will still read the preview, even though I'm pretty sure by the time this goes up, those episodes should have aired. But I do this for the benefit of those who are, for whatever reasons, outside of an area that WoW does not air on television, but they want to know what it is in order, or something along those lines. So this will be the next episode 248. The title, Demonic Duo. Already disinterested, but we'll get around that. Here we go. Tag team action starts tonight as the Brat Pack, Gigi Gianni, and BK Rhythm try to drown the challenge of Spring Break's Crystal Waters and Sandy Shore. Steffi Slays has been watching out for the underdogs here at WoW, but now it's her turn to battle one of Coach Campanelli's lackeys, Gloria Glitter, on her own. Can she defeat Gloria Glitter, or Glitter's high post rate runs Steffi out of the ring? More tag team action hits as the Animal Lovers Goldie Collins and Katarina Jinx wrestle with High Flyers, the Mighty Mites, Sugar and Spice. In our main event, Angelica Dante unites her sister Chainsaw and Siren the Voodoo Doll to wrestle the WoW Tag Team Champions, the Mother Truckers Holly Swag and Big Rig Betty. Will the power of voodoo bring us new tag team champions? Yeah, as I stated, I'm not interested in any of this. Not one thing. Almost everybody here, in my opinion, has been lackluster on their best day. Well, no. Let me take that back. I don't want to, lump Gloria Glitter into that category. But they pretty much ruined the Brat Pack, so a win against the winless team of Spring Break 24/7 means nothing. In fact, I would expect them to win. If they can't beat them, they just need to leave. Because WoW would have no plans for them whatsoever if they can't accomplish that. Glitter and Slays is going to be an extension of the Ariel Sky feud that just will not stop. Who cares about the Animal Instinct and the Mighty Mites? I would hope, and I would hope that the Mites would win because there's more upside for them rather than Animal Instinct. If they look good in that match at all, it'll be because the Mites made them look good. And why on earth would Chainsaw and Siren be getting a title match in the first place? Didn't they just lose to a team that got slapped together like that episode in the Fierce Sisters? And in like record time, they lost in like 2 minutes. So what justification do they have for even being in a tag team title match? And why would I expect them to win? All of those questions and more, I'm sure, will be answered on the next episode of WoW. But this is the ongoing issue that I have with WoW. They don't give me any reason to want to tune in beyond the fact that we got colorful people. Not any people. We got colorful women that are in the ring on our purple mat. And everybody here is superhero. I have air quotes around superhero. There's no drive to look at any of this. I mean, I find it so difficult to believe that somebody who has been in the wrestling business over 2 decades, well, 3 probably, individually, could book this badly. And I'm not saying that, booking is some sort of easy thing to do, but it's like they don't even give any effort or try whatsoever Let's just slap some matches together and put it on TV. Jeannie Buss doesn't know any different. She just think all of this stuff is great. So, and I'm sure the next time she has any interview anywhere, she'll say the same nonsense. I'm just happy to be able to push women's sports. She don't even say women's wrestling. It's just women's sports. So wrestling, I'm sure, is like low end of the totem pole and just a means to an end for her and a lot of other people that's associated with that product. But I already ranted about that, so I'm not going to go into it again. Anyhow, that was the episode. Hopefully I will sit down and I'll watch the next one, and maybe it will surprise me. Maybe. Fingers crossed. Who knows? Don't have high hopes, but my fingers are crossed. So on that note, we will close this out. If you have not done so, please go like, share, subscribe, do the YouTube stuff there. If you're listening to us on YouTube, you can also listen to us on greater podcast platforms everywhere. If you are unable to find those things, you go to WPNWrestling.com. It is the centerpiece for everything that goes on. Videos, audios, and otherwise. It all lands on the WPN Wrestling website. Every episode of the podcast, any videos that are produced. I need to get back to producing those, But time will tell whether we manage to do that or not. So in closing, and as always, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.